August 22, 2025, Basa Air Base, Philippines. The air is thick with anticipation. A new state-of-the-art runway cuts through the landscape, a symbol built with American funds and engineering. This isn't just a place for planes to land. It's a statement. In a region simmering with tension, this runway is a line drawn in reinforced concrete. The world is watching, because its purpose goes far beyond military logistics. It marks a major shift in the Indo-Pacific balance of power. This story matters to everyone. Fishermen in the South China Sea, factory workers in Ohio, families in Manila. The runway is a symbol of a deepening alliance, a response to a rising power, and a potential flashpoint for future conflict. The Philippines sits at the crossroads of vital shipping routes. Trillions in trade pass through these waters. For decades, the U.S. has guaranteed security here, but China's rise is challenging that role. This runway is America's clear, expensive, and permanent answer. As the first U.S. and Philippine aircraft touch down, we must ask, is this a deterrent or a provocation? The answer depends on who you ask, and this story will explore those perspectives. The U.S.-Philippine relationship is long and complex, rooted in colonial history and shared sacrifice during World War II. The 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty formalized their alliance. An attack on one is an attack on both. For decades, U.S. bases like Subic Bay projected power across Southeast Asia. Nationalism led to their closure in the 1990s, but the alliance endured. The Visiting Forces Agreement of 1999 brought U.S. troops back for joint exercises, Balikatan or shoulder to shoulder. Philippine presidents have swung between the U.S. and China, but today, the pendulum is firmly back toward Washington. The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement signed in 2014 allows the U.S. to build facilities and pre-position assets at bases like Basa. This isn't a return to permanent bases, but a flexible, rotational presence for 21st century challenges. The new runway is the most tangible result. A modern chapter in a century-old alliance. It's a partnership shaped by history, but now defined by the urgent realities of a changing region. The U.S. and the Philippines are adapting, not just to each other, but to the shifting tides of global power. This alliance is no longer just about the past, it's about the future. The runway at Basa is proof of that evolution. It's a signal to allies and rivals alike. The U.S. is here to stay. But with every new chapter, the stakes get higher. The world is watching what comes next. While the U.S. and the Philippines strengthen ties, China is reshaping the region. Beijing claims almost the entire South China Sea, overlapping with its neighbors' economic zones. To enforce these claims, China has built artificial islands, militarized outposts with runways, missiles, and radar. These unsinkable aircraft carriers let China project power far from its shores. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled against China's claims, but Beijing ignored the verdict. Chinese vessels routinely harass fishermen and coast guards from other nations, using force to assert dominance. The South China Sea is rich in resources and vital for China's trade. By controlling it, Beijing secures supply lines and creates a strategic buffer. But this assertiveness has backfired. Pushing countries like the Philippines back toward the U.S.-China's actions have polarized the region, fueling an arms race and deepening mistrust. The new runway at Basa is a direct response to this challenge. The contest for the South China Sea is about more than territory, it's about who sets the rules, and the stakes are rising. Basa Air Base, northwest of Manila, is now the centerpiece of the U.S.-Philippine alliance. Construction finished ahead of schedule, extending and strengthening the runway for everything from cargo planes to advanced fighter jets. U.S. funding under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement made it possible. Strategically, Basa faces the South China Sea, minutes from flashpoints like Scarborough Shoal. The runway enables rapid deployment, deterring aggression, and reassuring allies. Upgrades include new fuel storage, barracks, and warehouses for humanitarian aid. Officials highlight dual-use benefits, disaster response as well as defense, but controversy simmers. Some Filipinos see the project as a threat to sovereignty, fearing it makes the country a target. Critics warn of being dragged into a great power rivalry. The debate reflects the Philippines' difficult choices, caught between two giants. The runway is both a shield and a lightning rod. Its impact will be felt far beyond the base. The runway's completion triggered a wave of official statements. In Washington, it's hailed as proof of an ironclad commitment to the Philippines and regional security. U.S. officials stress the project is defensive, supporting international law and a treaty ally. Manila frames it as modernization and self-defense, emphasizing Philippine ownership. The government walks a fine line, welcoming U.S. support, but asserting sovereignty. Beijing's response is swift and sharp, condemning the runway as a provocation and a threat to regional stability. Chinese media call it part of America's Cold War mentality. Each side sees the runway through its own lens, defense for some, encirclement for others. The rhetoric is louder than ever and mistrust runs deep. A strip of concrete has become a megaphone for competing worldviews. The new runway sends ripples far beyond the Philippines. 1/3 of global maritime trade passes through the South China Sea. Any conflict here could disrupt the world economy. The runway raises the risk profile for this critical zone. Politically, it signals a tightening of US-led security blocs in the Indo-Pacific. The US is deepening ties with Japan, Australia, and others, polarizing the region. Militarily, the runway offers a resilient, dispersed basing option, harder to target, quicker to respond. This is agile combat employment in action, a key US Air Force doctrine. Locally, the base brings jobs and infrastructure, but also noise, environmental concerns, and social friction. For Filipinos, it sparks a national debate: security versus sovereignty, opportunity versus risk. The choices made here will echo across the globe. The runway is a catalyst for change. Its effects are just beginning. The world is watching closely. Experts agree, the Basa runway transforms the US-Philippine alliance's military posture. Dr. Evelyn Reed puts it simply, proximity is everything. From Basa, response time shrinks from hours to minutes. This speed deters aggression, but also raises the risk of miscalculation. Professor David Chen warns, from Beijing's view, this is containment. Expect a military buildup in response. It's a classic security dilemma. Defensive moves seen as threats, fueling an action-reaction spiral. Economists worry about trade. The South China Sea is a choke point, and any incident could rattle global markets. The hope is deterrence. The risk is escalation. Diplomacy is now more critical than ever. A retired ambassador sums it up. The hardware is in place. What matters is what comes next. Constant communication, clear red lines, and crisis management are essential. Without diplomatic software, military hardware becomes a liability. The region is walking a tightrope. One misstep could have global consequences. The runway is a tool, not a solution. Its true impact depends on the choices leaders make now. The stakes could not be higher. For Florida Blanca's residents, the runway is personal. Maria Santos, a local eatery owner, has seen her business boom thanks to the base upgrades. More soldiers, more workers, they all need to eat, she says. For us, it's a blessing. But nearby, farmer Roberto Cruz worries about noise, his animals, and the risk of war. We want peace, not to be caught between big countries, he says. The local government tries to balance opportunity and anxiety, holding town halls, promising to manage noise, and investing in schools and clinics. US-funded projects aim to show the alliance brings more than just military hardware. Hope and fear coexist here, reflecting the nation's dilemma. Economic growth is needed, but so is security and independence. The partnership with a superpower brings benefits and risks. For people like Maria and Roberto, foreign policy is deeply personal. Their lives are shaped by decisions made far away. The runway's impact is felt most by those living in its shadow. The new runway at Basa Air Base is more than concrete. It's a symbol of a world at a crossroads. It embodies the gamble that military deterrence can keep the peace in a contested region. This is the story of a renewed US-Philippine alliance, and a direct response to China's rise. The stakes are high. Best case, the runway deters aggression and stabilizes the region. Worst case, it sparks an arms race or conflict. What happens next is uncertain, but the consequences will be global and generational. This isn't just about strategy, it's about the world we want to live in. Will disputes be settled by law and diplomacy, or by force? The choices made now will echo for decades. We must demand wisdom and restraint from our leaders. The runway is finished, but its story and its impact are just beginning.